If you're over 50 and want to build total body strength without spending hours in the gym, then this video is for you. I'll show you how you can strengthen your whole body from home with just 3 simple exercises. These exercises will help you with everyday activities while working multiple muscle groups at once. So let's get started. The first exercise strengthens your quadriceps and glutes and helps you with activities such as standing up from a chair or getting up from the floor. And that essential exercise is the squat. I'll start out with the bodyweight squat first and then show you ways to make it easier or harder based on your fitness level. So for the basic bodyweight squat, you want to stand with your feet about shoulders width apart, maybe a little bit wider. Just do what feels comfortable. Your toes may point straight ahead or they may flare outwards. Just go into a stance that feels natural for you. Next, you're going to want to turn your knees out just a little bit to face over top of your toes. That'll keep your hips, knees, and toes in alignment as you go down into the squat. Then you want to start the movement by sticking your bottom out a little bit. That'll put your weight back on your heels, and then just drop down as deep as you feel comfortable going. Once you get to a comfortable depth, push through your heels to push yourself back up. Now to see that from a side view, you're going to sit back, weight on your heels, drop straight down like you're sitting, and then push through the heels to come back up. Notice that your trunk isn't perfectly vertical. As you push your hips back, you need to lean forward a little bit to counterbalance your weight and keep your center of gravity over your feet. So start by pushing your hips back, drop down a little bit, then push back up through the heels. That's the basic body weight version. But what if you have knee pain or that's uncomfortable for you to do, or you just don't have strong enough legs to get down into a full squat? Well, the easiest thing to do is just to go into a partial squat. Make it a little bit easier. The deeper down you go, the harder the exercise gets. So if you stay in a little shallower squat, that'll make it easier for you. Additionally, you can do that in front of a chair, especially if you're uncertain about your balance. When you go to sit back into a squat, sometimes you can feel like you're going to tip over backwards. And if that's the case for you, start out doing it in front of a chair or a couch where you have something that you can sit down on just in case you lose your balance. Additionally, that gives you a reference point to know kind of how deep you're going. Ideally, you want to just squat down, touch your bottom, and then come back up rather than plopping all the way back down in the seat. By doing that, that maintains muscle tension on your quads and glutes throughout the exercise so that you're not resting in between reps. So again, line your feet up, turn your knees out over toes, sit back just a little bit, and then drop down, touch your bottom on the seat, and come back up by pushing through your heels. Sit back, touch your bottom, and push back up. Now, if you're on the opposite end of the spectrum and doing a bodyweight squat is too easy for you, you can add weight by doing a goblet squat. You hold a dumbbell like a cup or a goblet, and then stick your bottom back, sit straight down, push up through your heels, and the technique is pretty much the same. You just hold a weight in front of you with your forearms vertical to add a little bit of additional resistance. So that's the first exercise, the squat. Now, the second exercise is going to be a pushing movement for your upper body, and that's going to be a push-up. There are several different variations of the push-up, so I'll start from the easiest version and move to more complex versions. For the first one, we're going to do a wall push-up. So you start with your arms at about 45 degrees, standing about an arm's length away from the wall. You want your hands to touch just around shoulder height, maybe a little bit below that. Then you're going to lean into the wall slightly, come down until you touch your nose to the wall, and then push back together. Now, a few pointers on this. Number one, you want to think about turning your elbows in and kind of squeezing your shoulder blades together. That helps set your shoulder blades and stabilize them against your spine. Additionally, when you're pushing, you don't want to think so much about pushing with your hands. You're actually kind of thinking about pushing your elbow away from your body, and your hands will extend by virtue of doing that. So that's the wall push-up, and again, you just do that by leaning into the wall, coming down, touching your nose, and then press away. That's fairly easy because gravity is pushing down this way, and you're basically going more or less horizontal. So if the wall push-up is too easy for you, you can make it more difficult by leaning on a chair or a table or a couch or a bed, something that allows you to be roughly at a 45-degree angle to the floor and then coming down into the push-up. And the technique is more or less the same doing the 45-degree push-up. And then if that becomes easier for you, you can also move down to the floor and start out by doing knee push-ups like this. Again, arms at about 45 degrees, touching your chest down and coming up. And then when that becomes easy, move up to your toes and do full push-ups. But essentially the movement pattern is the same. You're also activating your core to stabilize here. Essentially you're doing a plank, but then doing the plank with movement added. Now when you can get up to doing 50 repetitions of push-ups, you may need some additional resistance. You can do that by using a resistance band around your back, then putting your hands on the floor, and then just doing a push-up with added resistance. So you're using your body weight in addition to the resistance of the band. Then the final exercise is a pulling movement that works on the back part of your body or the posterior chain. So the hamstrings, the glutes, the lower back, and the upper back, as well as your abdominals. And that exercise is the deadlift. Now this is probably the most controversial because a lot of people believe that deadlifts are dangerous or that they'll hurt their back. But the truth is, if you ever lift anything up from the ground in real life, you're already doing a deadlift. Additionally, by using the proper resistance and the proper technique, you'll actually make your back stronger and more resilient. So to do a deadlift, there are several different variations. We'll start with using a kettlebell where the weight is between your legs and you're lifting up like this. That more simulates picking up a package off a porch or picking up a bag of dog food. To do this, you would straddle the kettlebell, hinge your hips, so you're kind of pushing back here. Notice you're not rounding out your back. That is a good way to hurt your back when lifting. So you want to keep your spine in a relatively neutral position, not excessively arched, not excessively rounded, and then hinge at the hips to push your hips backwards. Now notice your knees will bend some, but you're not squatting down to lift like this. This is a different exercise than the squat. So hinge at the hips, keep the weight close to you, grab onto it, and then you're going to lift up, not by lifting with your back, but you're actually going to squeeze your glutes, drive your heels down into the floor, and push your hips underneath it by using your glutes and hamstrings. Additionally, you keep your abdominal muscles tight to help keep your spine in a neutral position. So push the hips back, push the heels through the floor, and then push your hips in like that. You're also using your upper back muscles to hold the weight close to you. You don't want to let it get out there. Push the hips in, drive in like that, come back down. Hips in, come back down, hips in, and come back down. Now you can also do a deadlift with dumbbells. To do this with 2 dumbbells, you put one weight in front of each leg, and then steps of your feet are underneath the handles of the dumbbells. That makes sure you get nice and close to it, and then again you push your hips back. This is going to be a little bit lower, as you can see, than the kettlebell. But the technique is the same. So you put your weight on your heels, you're going to drive through your heels, push the hips forwards like that. So hips back, and then tighten your stomach muscles so you're supporting your spine, drive the heels through the floor, and come up like that. Lower back down, hips in, hips back, hips in, and hips back, but you're not lifting up with your lower back like that. So those were the 3 exercises. By doing 3 sets of 10 of each of those on 3 days per week, you can get your entire body stronger. However, if you'd like some more exercise variation, check out these other strengthening exercises over here. But before you go, if you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to our channel so you can get notified of our future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.